I'm trying to get my attention. What do you need real quick, bub? I'm on a class. Okay. He's going to his daddy. So we're good. Sorry.
That's okay. So vital activities, right? So we talk about vital, we talk about things that are relevant, but not vital. So hopefully this class is going to clear some of that up because it, like us, everything matters. Nothing is too small. There's nothing that we won't do to advance our business as long as we feel like it's productive, but productive can take on many forms. So hopefully this will kind of provide some clarity on what has to happen in order to keep your business rolling forward. So I always start this way, and I do that on purpose because I like to not only share what our company mission and our company vision statements are, but also use them as a way to get you thinking about what your mission and what your vision statements are. So I won't read these word for word, but hopefully they'll serve as some sort of inspiration where you can develop your own mission statement and your own vision statement as they relate to what you're hoping to accomplish in your business. Same thing with our values. These are company values. And I don't know if Charlie shared or if we've shared in Mastermind or what, but our whole approach to the culture of what our company is has changed, and it's evolved and it's grown. And he's been preparing what he calls a manifesto, which is basically an expansion of the mission, the vision, the values, the beliefs, the core of who we are. And it's going to be exciting to be able to share that in the coming weeks and months, especially as we head into a new year. But in saying all of that, these are our company values as they stand today. And again, we show them at the beginning of every class because hopefully they'll serve as some sort of inspiration for you guys in that what values are firmly planted in your business. What is it that you want people to know and feel when working with you? What are those foundational stones that you stand firm on that are unwavering for you? And then that leads us into our beliefs. So this is not an exhaustive list by any means. This is truly just kind of a snapshot of some of the higher points and as they kind of tie back into our values and our mission vision. But the one in blue is the one that's most relevant today. And that one is that we believe focus is the key to success. And so what you can expect today is just a pretty thorough discussion about time and also about realizing somebody's potential. And really, that has nothing to do with how you compare to other people, but it does have a lot to do with the use of the hours that you have that you choose to dedicate to your career on a daily basis. So when we talk about realizing your potential, it's truly your individual potential compared to what you've done already and what you could do moving forward. So here's what you can do to get the most out of today. It's just keep an open mind. Some of this is going to sound crazy basic. It's done that way on purpose because what we know is that real estate is basic. It's not overly complex, and that's why we focus so hard on drilling down deep on those fundamentals and doing the small things really, really well. Going back to those small hinges swinging big doors. When you can do the small things really well, then those add up over time to big, big results. Try to limit your distractions and then write down anything that stands out to you. If you like, I can send you a PDF copy of the presentation. That way you have it for future reference. And it also includes the checklist that I promised of those vital activities as they relate to working with buyers. All right, so I love this. It's this little story. And Crystal, you know Eric, and so you may or may not have ever heard him talk about his dad, but his dad was very successful. He's a financial advisor, and this story is kind of what motivated him from a young child onward. His father shared it with him, and then he shared it with Eric, and I love it. And it's actually on his dad's epitaph on his headstone. So this is how much this story mattered to him. But every day in Africa, a gazelle, this little fellow right here, wakes up. And he knows that he has to run faster than the fastest lion or he's going to die. But likewise, every morning, a lion wakes up and he knows that he has to outrun the slowest gazelle or he's not going to eat that day. So the whole thing is, it doesn't matter if you're the lion or if you're the gazelle. The point is that when the sun comes up, you better be running. So you better be doing something. What is it that you need to do today? And that's kind of the driving force behind Eric as well. So, he's like, I just need to do something. I need to be productive. Doesn't matter what part of the process I'm in. I need to just hit the ground running. So let's talk about some truths. When we talk about the word average, that does not mean in any way that we're saying that you're average compared to others who do what you do within your industry, right? But what we are suggesting is that you could be average compared to what you're capable of, what your potential is. So doing only enough to get by is the same as staying within your comfort zone and avoiding that discomfort and that that comes with the growth and the progress that we're always after. And so another way to look at this is maximizing your output equals reaching your potential. So it's so, so important that the efforts that we're putting into our business every day are our max effort for max output. So ask yourself, when you're looking at the use of hours that you choose to dedicate to your career daily, think about it. Are you getting the most out of them? Each and every one of them. Are you consistently operating at your highest and best use of time? Do you know what your highest and best use of your time is? And a lot of us are going to say, no, we don't know. We don't know that we're getting the most out of it. We can say that we probably hit a home run out of the park sometimes. And then we might say otherwise, well, nope, totally wasted that hour, blew it, you know? So learning how to consistently operate at our highest and best use is a practice, and it does take time, but hopefully this will help. Now, time in itself, that is our most precious resource. And I could even argue that not even just in real estate, but just, it doesn't matter what you choose to do with your career. We're all limited by the same thing, and that's time. So your potential as a realtor is restricted to the number of hours that you and others are willing to dedicate to your business. So are you one of those people that says, okay, I'm going to work 4 hours on Monday, 6 hours on Tuesday, or do you just kind of let the day shape how many hours it takes to do what you need to do that day?
I typically let the day shape it, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I would say that most of us do. You know, I think we probably have a few things in the back of our minds. We're like, okay, I need to get this done and that done and this done. But then I don't know that many of us set out, unless you're doing what I do, where I have a set, 9 to 5 kind of thing. But really it starts with allocating a certain amount of hours to your day that you're choosing to focus on and dedicate to your business. So that's sort of step one. It's okay, how many hours am I going to invest in my business today? And then this is also geared to help you guys differentiate between your personal life and your professional life, because oftentimes one of them suffers. If we're killing it in the professional side, and the personal side kind of takes a hit. But then when we put more of our effort on the personal side, then the professional side kind of takes a dip. So being able to say, okay, I'm going to dedicate X amount of hours to my business today. I'm not going to do anything tomorrow because I'm spending that day with my family. So then what do I need to do the next day to make up for that? So hopefully this will help kind of help you plan and learn how to allocate your time so that you're not only effective, but also can kind of regain some of that balance that we all seek and that we're all after. So now, and I love this. So think of it this way. I'm very visual, so this is probably the one that speaks most to me. But we know that the capacity of a 16-ounce glass is 16 ounces. Nothing we can do about that. So likewise, when you think about your capacity as a realtor, being limited to the amount of time that you and others are willing to dedicate to your career, our goal should be to get the most out of each hour that we dedicate to the day. So we kind of talk about the difference between spending time and investing time and how different those two things are. Well, it could also be said and illustrated this way, that water, 16 ounces of water is completely different than 16 ounces of gold. So when you're talking about filling your cup or filling your day, do you want 16 ounces of water or do you want 16 ounces of gold? You want 16 ounces of gold because obviously it carries a lot more weight and it's more valuable. Water is water, right? So capacity and what we choose to fill our day with or fill our cup with matters. Now, your glass can be full or it can be fulfilling. And as long as you're willing, and this is more than half the battle, as long as you're willing to dedicate the time, you might as well get the best return possible for being as effective and efficient as you can. Now, one key note here is that money is not the key asset in life. And if
No.
it's not money, then what is it? It's time. It's time, 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 time. So we have to kind of train ourselves to think that our focus should revolve around making as much as we can during the hours that we dedicate to our career. And then forget about it on those hours that we choose not to dedicate to our career, that we choose to dedicate elsewhere in the form of our families, our friends, ourselves, our me time, whatever the case may be. So time, as I've mentioned, has to be viewed as our most precious resource because it is. So we have to decide how we're going to budget it by defining the number of hours that you plan to invest, not spend. Because when you invest, you're expecting what? A return. You want to see the fruits of your labor and the fruits of the time that you put into it. So what you invest in does matter. So we have to choose very wisely. Now, when we react to the day, what can happen? Some of our time can be wasted, right? So, you hear us talk a lot about intentional and proactive. Be proactive. You run the day. Let's not let the day run us. Okay? So that's going to bring us into this as well. Intentional and proactive. This is woven in every single momentum course that we teach. It's woven within our new manifesto. It's everywhere. And I love it. And it's something that kind of keeps me on track throughout the week as well. Because it's easy to kind of go down these different rabbit holes or, shiny keys or whatever the case may be. So part of escaping that overwhelming feeling that we get because we have so much on our plates and escaping that and becoming more productive, it means from moving from one end of the spectrum, which is being spontaneous and reactive, to being intentional and proactive. And that starts with understanding what path are we on and which one do we want to take. Okay. So choosing a career path, because the way that you approach your career and your business is not going to be the same as the person sitting next to you. Because we all are driven by different motivations. We're all driven by different goals. So choosing a career path. There are 4. Okay. And the first one is a typical salesperson. This is somebody who just remains in phase 1. And we're going to go through those phases in just a bit. Then the other side of that is a thriving salesperson. This is somebody who progresses. So they move and grow and evolve from phase 1 to phase 2. Now, on the other side of the grid, there's a typical entrepreneur, and that's somebody who jumps from the base level or phase 1 and all the way to phase 3, where they want other people to do what they need to have done without taking the time to learn those systems and create those systems for themselves. Okay. And then number 4 is the thriving entrepreneur. So this is somebody who progresses equally through each of the phases. This is somebody who takes the time not only to invest in themselves, but also in the processes and the systems that are needed to be able to then delegate and leverage with other people doing those systems. Okay. So here's a good little visual. So we all start probably right here, the typical salesperson. We all start at phase 1, and then we can choose. We want to be a thriving salesperson and a thriving entrepreneur, or do we want to kind of just stay typical and be somebody who puts on an entrepreneur's hat and says, hey, I own my own business and I do this and yay me. Big distinction there, okay? So another way to phrase this is what we would call the journey to abundance, because when we talk about an abundant life, which you've probably heard that, what we're talking about is an abundance of time and an abundance of money so that you can do the things that you want to do with the time that you want to do it in, with the people that you want to do it with, without your business taking a hit. So you still have all the same money that you would expect to have as if you were doing it yourself. Okay. So the journey to abundance then, it truly is a journey. It's not the destination. It's not the result. It's the progress, and it's the intentional progression every day as we get better and better and better with each one of these phases. And those phases, there are 3 of them, okay? One is what we call the comfort phase, which this one is very easy for us to stay in. This is where we know what we know and we are good at it and we are just fine with the way things are. Then there's the mastery phase, right? So this is where we really take a look and examine what we're doing in our businesses and how can we become more effective? How can we become more efficient? How can we be proficient in certain tasks? We develop processes and systems to help move things along quickly, move things along to where we're not having to recreate the wheel over and over and over again. Which then leads us to number 3, which is the freedom phase. Freedom is another word for leverage, teaching others to do the systems and the processes that you've already put into place so that you can be free to do what you want to do without your business suffering for it. So, key thing with these phases to note is that each one of these is totally unique from the other. And it requires us to establish and maintain specific and productive behavioral habits before we can move on or advance to the next phase. All right, so here's another visual, right? So are you a salesperson or are you truly an entrepreneur? 2 very different things. A salesperson is somebody who views what they do as a job, right? And an entrepreneur is somebody who totally encompasses what it is that they're trying to accomplish. They live it, they breathe it, they are what they're doing. They have full belief in it. They take ownership of it. That's another big distinction. So let's talk about those phases. It starts here at the bottom, and that's the comfort phase, or the 3 C's. So there's commitment, there's confidence, there's consistency. We all start out this way, right? We all have the best intentions. But this is also when we're learning. We're learning about what works for us, what doesn't work for us, what we hope to learn more of. We kind of start having more of that awareness about, okay, so I know I'm really good at this, but I know that I need work with this. This is also when our beliefs start to take shape. Beliefs as they relate to our business and what we know to be true and what we believe is going to best serve us in our business. That's when these beliefs start to take form. Now, when we progress up here into the mastery phase, or this E phase here, what's needed? It's going to be endurance, right? Because it is a journey. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. I don't care if you have every connection in the world. Success, worthwhile, lasting success, is not something that happens like this. Even though to other people it could very well appear to have happened that way, it doesn't. It takes time. So you've got to have that willingness to endure, the grit that it takes to hold on and know that if you consistently dedicate certain hours to your business every day, and you know that you dive in and you go all in every day and you push through and you persevere, you're going to come out on the other side. And Charlie kind of talked about that in his mojo today, especially as it relates to lead generation. It's a daily event. So pushing and pushing and pushing every day is where you come out on the other side and you say, holy cow, look at all that I've done. Look at everything that I've just accomplished. So in this mastery phase, that's when those systems are being developed, right? And those systems tie directly back to our beliefs. But with the introduction of systems, guess what else comes into play? Effectiveness, efficiency, because those systems start to kind of automate the process for us to where we no longer have to think or invest so much time in figuring it out, because we know what works for us and what doesn't work for us. Now, moving up here to this freedom phase, or the P phase, this is where we start to develop other people, okay? So this is where leverage really comes in, because we can advance our business in the form of promotion, but we can also advance the people around us by promoting them into key areas that they can do what we maybe struggle with so much better than what we could ever do it with. We become proficient because now that we have got systems in place and we are committed to mastery and we have progressed out of that phase, we've not only become effective and efficient, now we're talking about proficient, because there's no reason why a system will break down at this point that's been tried and true and proven. There is still a little bit of patience involved with this, because patience is something that I feel like is needed each step of the way, whether you're at the very bottom and you're still, you have to have patience to be able to trust the journey. You got to have patience with yourself as you're mastering the basics and mastering the concepts and the fundamentals of your business. But you got to have patience in the people that you trust your business with. So patience is one of those things I feel like carries all the way through. So then when we talk about freedom, another word for that is leverage. And it's really, if you think about it, split into thirds. So it's 1/3 of our beliefs plus 1/3 of the systems that we've created based on our beliefs. And then it's 1/3 of people that we bring in, that we trust with our systems and our business, who can adopt some of our beliefs or all of our beliefs. And then when all 3 of those meet, then you have complete freedom and leverage yourself out of your business to where it will run as if you're running it. And why not? It's your beliefs, it's your systems, and it's the people that you put in place. So that is the visual representation of that journey to abundance. Do you have any questions on that so far? Okay. So I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and talk about intent, because, we talk about intentional and proactive. And there are 5 tools of intent that I want to call your attention to. And the reason we do this is because a thriving business results from knowing the answers to 5 important questions. And it kind of starts with the first one, and it's, why is it that some agents totally maximize their daily output? Because they intend to. They set out with a purpose and they see it through no matter what. So thriving, or having a thriving business, or being somebody who's thriving as an entrepreneur or even a salesperson, it comes as a result of knowing these 5 tools, or these 5 questions. Why? That's a big one, and that's probably the king. What, how, who, and when. Okay, so why is it that I want to do this with my business? What is it that I need to do in order to connect that back to why I wanted it in the first place? How is it going to be done? What methods are going to be needed? Who's going to accomplish all of these tasks? Is it going to be me wearing all the hats? Is there somebody that I can lean on to help me with some of this? And then when? So thriving comes as a result of knowing those 5 questions as they relate to your business as a whole. So we can kind of connect it back to, honestly, the framework of a complete and an appropriate business plan. So if you're somebody who doesn't have a business plan, or if you're somebody who started with a business plan, but you think, probably could use another look now that I've been at this for a little bit, this is a really good framework because it covers the 5 tools of intent. And it starts with why. It's the entrepreneur's mantra. And that mantra is, it is unacceptable for my business to profit less than X, whatever that number is for you. Everybody is different. That's going to reflect why you do it. If you're a person that says, in my past life, I made $75,000 a year, it's unacceptable for me to switch careers and make less than that, then that is your why, because you know that's what you need to continue your lifestyle in the way that you've wanted to have it, or that's what you need to pay the bills, or that's what you need to afford you to pay your bills, have your lifestyle plus some. So everybody has a different number. Everybody has a different driving factor, a different why. That leads us to the what, or what we would call the economic model. That's what needs to be done to get me to where I want to be financially. How is the operational model? How is it going to be done? Am I going to spend X amount of time with professional development? Am I going to take so many hours of continued education? How am I going to get there? How am I going to do what needs to be done? Number 4, who is going to get it done? Or the organizational model. I kind of think of like the hierarchy of organizations, like an organizational chart. Same kind of thing. It could be your name in every single one of the boxes. Who knows? But being able to identify, being able to identify who's going to get it done is huge because it provides so much clarity for you as a business owner. And then number 5, when is it going to be done? That leads us to our discussion today on activities management or vital activities management and that system in place. So we talked a little bit about time blocking right before class started. And this speaks to that beautifully. The way that systems really thrive is knowing when they're going to be used, right? So all of our time should be blocked in one of these 4 categories. The first is lead generation. So prospecting, marketing, studying and practicing the things that you could say as a way to generate leads when you're next to somebody at the ballpark or at the grocery store or the next fundraiser. Being able to identify those different prospecting sources. You know, maybe it's a group of moms that you see regularly because of your kids' activities. Maybe it's somebody at your church. Be open to seeing what groups you can work within. The second category that we should block our time is converting those leads, having those face-to-face meetings, or studying and practicing the type of dialogue that could be useful in successfully converting them from a lead to an actual seller you can represent or an actual buyer you can help. Third category is probably the one that takes the most time, and that is those client care systems. So it's either sign in the yard to the closing table or contract to close, because everything in between is really the nuts and bolts of keeping those balls rolling. And that does take a lot of time and sort of keeping all the plates spinning on the little holes. So, and then number 4, of course, is your personal development, which is what you're doing right now. You're in training. There's consulting, there's accountability, there's mastermind groups. All of that plays into that personal and professional development. So when you look at your calendar and you look at your days, is your time being spent in these 4 categories? Is it being spent in each of these categories every day? If it's not, maybe there's a way to incorporate more of this so that your business and these categories are treated equally, so that each day you know that when you put your head on the pillow, did I do right by my business? Did I try to generate leads wherever I saw an opportunity? Check. Did I really have those conversations to make an effort to convert them into somebody that I could really help? Check. How did I take care of the ones that I'm already helping or I'm already servicing? I did this, and this, and the list is this long. Yes. And then what did I do to develop myself? If you're doing all of those things, then you can go to bed knowing that you did every single thing right in your business that day that could lead to potential revenue on the other side. Because these are the only 4 categories that actually lead to those real estate sales revenues. And I think that makes sense, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. So taking control of our activities, this is where things get a little bit furry. And this is so true, but most people get ahead during the time that other people waste. And if there's one thing that Eric and I fight about the most, it's this right here, because I just feel like he is so capable of whatever he wants to do, but he wastes so much time either playing a game on his phone or mindlessly watching TV or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, Eric, do you realize what all you could do with all the time that you just waste? And, sometimes he's like, oh yeah. And then he'll dig into something productive. And then other times it's just like, and it drives me nuts. But the whole point here is staying intentional about the things that we're doing and staying proactive or causing the results that we're after is the ultimate key to succeeding in whatever we choose to do. It's being accountable. There's that word, being accountable for every hour that we choose to invest in our career. So incorporating a system like an activities management system is a great place to start. And when you have an activities management system, it helps to establish those specific time parameters. And like I said, it starts with defining first the length of time that you are willing to invest in your business each day and then each week. And when you take this approach, it forces you and it sort of tricks your brain into seeing that your time truly is limited. And that also helps to increase the likelihood that you're going to prioritize your activities so that you remain truly proactive. So here's a step-by-step on how to do it. And it starts again, determine or define how many career hours that you're going to invest in your career for the week. You know, most people are like, oh, well, I'm going to do 40 hours. Well, 40 hours may work for some and it may not work for others. Maybe it's a particularly heavy week in terms of your commitments with your family. Okay, then say this week, I can truly invest 25 hours into my career this week. Whatever the case may be, but that's where it starts. And then we break that down on a day by day. We look at the week and then we break it down into daily increments, defining the total career hours for the day. That's going to then help you to identify those blocks for each day, those 4 categories: lead generation, lead conversion, client care systems, and then professional development or personal development. It then starts with recording our initial activities, sort of like those daily update emails that we had to do when we worked in our past lives. That is probably the most effective way to see where your time is going, is to record every action that you take for 2 weeks. Because you're going to be able to see how much of it is fluff and how much of it is truly making a difference in your business and propelling you forward in the way that you want to move. It's also very important that we stay engaged the entire time that we set out to block. So if it's an hour and that's all you got, then move the phone to the side and truly give it for a total hour that you dedicate to that particular block. Sometimes it helps people to focus to kind of set a timer on their phone or an alarm to say, okay, time's up, move on to the next thing. I've tried this myself and I love it. It's something that I'm like, okay, I'm done with that. And I know that I can check that box and that I did myself, I gave myself every possible chance to do that I set out to do. I even did this when I was prospecting, doing leasing in a previous life. It was from 4 to 5 at the end of every day. And that's all I did. That worked for me. Figure out your method and kill it. So stay engaged for the entire block. Then you can refer to that vital activities checklist as needed to kind of do a checks and balance of what you've done with a buyer or what you're doing with a seller. And am I being totally vital in my time, in the activities that I'm doing? Now, also very important, at the end of every day, take a look and see how you progressed. Are you happy with it? Could you see or identify any parts where you maybe have fallen down a little bit? Grade yourself, basically. What would have made it a 10? And then, of course, every day you're going to repeat the same steps, 2 through 7 every day. So that's sort of the step-by-step on how to set yourself up to be vital every day. This is a good example of how to be intentional and proactive. This is any given work day. Maybe you are going to allow 9 hours that day, 8 hours, 7 hours. And you'll see their day starts at 8 and it starts with lead generation all the way up until about 10 o'clock. And they're going to switch gears a little bit and start taking care of those clients that they have in the form of client care, signed to close or contract to close. Then they're going to give themselves a little bit of a break to do some other administrative stuff and follow up where needed, which then that'll lead right into lunch where they can kind of recoup and regather. Then they're going to look at lead conversion and lead generation, of course, because those two things go hand in hand, for about an hour and a half. And then they're going to get back to servicing those clients that they're currently working with. Their day stops at 4:30 with other admin and follow-up, and then that's it. They're free for the rest of the evening to do as they please with their family, their friends, whomever. So this is just a good example to show you guys visually how to set up a day with those blocks that we talked about. So focusing then on the right activities. You won't know for sure until you fully account for each hour. And to do this, we'll need to track every hour. And I know this seems so extreme, but believe me, if you want to get a good accounting of where your time goes, this is the best way to do it. So you need to track every hour and document those activities that you purchase within that time block. So it's going to allow you to see, again, any activity that's either unproductive, that you can eliminate completely, but you can also replace it with an activity that's truly vital. I have heard a few people in the office say that they did this just to see where their time goes, and they were just like, I literally only work like an hour and a half a day, and it was so eye-opening to them because they were like, there's so much time that I waste chasing this down and chasing that down and chasing that phone call. And I just need focus. I need a direction. I need a plan. So I would highly encourage you to take or document every hour that you're choosing to go to work and see what that looks like over the course of 2 weeks. So that leads us to our checklist, and this is what it's all about. This is the 47 vital buyer activities. Now, don't be alarmed. Don't panic. That seems like a lot. Or maybe you're thinking, only 47? Are you sure that's not 74? But this is a wonderful focus tool to make sure that the things that you're doing as they relate to buyers are truly the things that are going to propel you forward in your business. Okay? And it starts with none other than lead generation. You can't really have a buyer until you first get a buyer. So generating leads, whether it's face-to-face or on the phone or email or whatever the case, your network, that's a big one. Farming a neighborhood, open houses or the internet, social media, whatever the case, it starts with finding those buyers, which then brings us to lead conversion. And this basically, if you've attended the buyer process course, this is what we cover. It's introducing the process or the system in which we put our buyers into so that we can totally remain effective, efficient, and vital when working with buyers so that our time is not wasted on people who claim to be buyers but maybe are not buyers. So it starts by meeting in the office and having that first meeting where we bring them into the conference room, because neutral ground. It's Switzerland. It's not come into my office, especially if you think about a first-time home buyer, how intimidating that could be. So moving them into the conference room. Plus, it gives you more room to spread things out, especially if they've brought documents or if you've got things to show them. Just really good rule of thumb there. Then getting on the selling channel. That just means getting in the zone, getting in the right frame of mind to have a focused conversation with your buyer, which leads you into having that conversation, which starts with building the rapport. Okay, setting the tone for a win-win productive working relationship and setting the tone for what your meeting is going to cover. And it's all focused on their needs and their wants, because how can you possibly effectively help them if you're unsure what they want or what they need in their next home? So getting them to come into the office and meeting with you face-to-face in the conference room where you can help them uncover their needs and their wants and what they feel like is their perfect home, that's the good way to start. And that's a process that's specific that you can treat every buyer the same way. After they've uncovered and you've helped them uncover their needs and wants, it's time to prioritize those wants and then verify their motivation, asking, how are you going about finding your next home? Verifying motivation goes back to being able to quickly identify who's a serious buyer and who's not a serious buyer. Because again, everything we do is in the interest of protecting our time, because it is our most precious resource. So after we're good with the motivation, we want to then verify their financial ability. Have they spoken with the lender? Are they pre-qualified or pre-approved for X amount of dollars? You'll transition then to roles and expectations. So here's everything I feel like you can expect from me as your realtor, your teammate in this process. And then likewise, here's everything that I feel like I can expect from you as my teammate in this transaction. And it's literally a sheet of paper that has 15 or 16 things that says, this is what you're going to get from me. And then here's everything I feel like I can get from you. Wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to give a buyer or a seller for that matter. If you don't have those, let me know. I have them with the Remax One logo that you can just get and put into your folders. And I can email those to you. That way you have them and you can add whatever you like. I love the roles and expectations part of that conversation, especially because it's kind of like, here's a blueprint on how to make you happy. Now that we've gone through each of these things, is there something on this list that I did not include that you would expect from me? So, conflict only arises when those expectations differ. So what better way to get all on the same page than to talk about it right at the beginning?
And I don't think a lot of agents do that, to be honest.
No, of course not. And, I think it could just be from a fear of, conflict or coming up against something where it's like, oh, I don't want to bring it up because then they're going to be like, oh, that could, open a big can of worms or whatever the case may be. But to me, I just view that as a blueprint on, okay, here's everything that I'm going to do for you. Is there something that I may have missed that's important to you? That in itself differentiates you far and above the competition. And it's a way to also keep the focus on them and not on us, which I love that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, that's when it would be time to introduce the buyer's rep agreement if you use them. Some that I've taught are like, no, I don't need it, or no, I don't use it, or sometimes I do, whatever the case may be. That would be the time to introduce that. It's also a good idea or good practice, I think, to give them a blank copy of a sales contract. I think it's always good when you can send someone away with something they can hold. And a sales contract blank is great because they can familiarize themselves with it so that whenever you guys get into a showing and they're ready to make an offer, the process isn't slowed down by questions that they have over the text. At that point, you'll set a date for the second meeting, which is what leads you into showing the properties based on their needs and their wants that you discuss in this first initial meeting. So that leads us into the administrative prep, which again, you guys probably know, administrative makes up probably 3/4 of your business. And then the actual selling is the other 25%. Yeah. So administrative is highly, highly important. And it starts with mailing a thank you letter. I think that's such a great practice. And it's something that I also feel is sort of a lost art. But I think a thank you letter can serve multiple purposes. One, truly expressing gratitude for someone taking time to physically meet with you. But also it kind of serves as a what's next or here's what's coming next. So it keeps everybody on the same page moving forward. You'll begin to create their file. That way all of their things can be organized as you progress through the process. Some people choose digital, some people choose paper. Maybe it's a combination of both. Whatever you're comfortable with, that would be the time to create that file. You can verify the price range with a lender, especially if they've communicated to you that they have spoken with a lender. And then follow that up a step further and let your client know that, hey, I talked to your lender and he did confirm that you guys are pre-approved or pre-qualified for up to $200,000. How much of that are you wanting to spend? That goes a long, long way at keeping the expectations managed on both ends, your end and your client's end. But also it shows so much respect for their financial position when we don't just assume that they want to spend everything that they were approved to spend. My cousin Haley, she's a first-time home buyer, and they were approved for I think low to mid twos, but they were determined they were not going to spend a dime over $199 because they're just cautious. First-time home buyer, they don't want to bite off more than they can chew, and so their realtor had said, hey, are y'all wanting to spend all of that, or where do you want to be price? Went a really long way for them. Okay, placing that client in your CRM or your touch program. I feel like this is the one thing that gets put on the back burner until the transaction is closed, and then you're fumbling for the information, trying to stay on top of it. So now is a great, great time to add their information then while it's all fresh. And you could even add some notes about, their dog's name is Nala, and they are in the area, or they just are moving into the area because of work. Anything that can help you generate more conversations later is what you want to include here. Then the fun starts. You get to search the MLS to see which properties meet their needs and their wants based on what they shared with you in that first meeting. You'll, of course, call the listing agent, verify availability. I feel like our MLS is not always totally accurate in the form of statuses on properties. So that's a good practice as well. And then prepare showing packages. I know, Crystal, when you showed property to us, you had prepared materials for each property that we were going to go see. So is that still what you're doing today, or have you changed it? Or
For the most part, if I know about it, well, if I've got it scheduled, then yes, I do try to prepare sheets and information for each one. And I try to go through like the seller's disclosure myself and point out important things, but sometimes they're on the fly and I just have to roll with it as quick
Sure.
as I can. But for the most part, I try to prepare in advance for my showings.
Awesome. So this is exactly what that's talking about. Anything that could help answer a question that a buyer may have is what I would recommend to include in a showing package.
I hate to not be prepared for a showing. It's one of those things where you get asked a bunch of questions and you look like you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so absolutely it helps with your confidence. It helps to maintain your credibility. Another good idea when you're preparing showing packages, and we talk about this in the buyer process course, but I love taking like those summary sheets that you can print from the MLS and highlighting all of the features that the buyer shared with you that they have to have. And then anything that they would like to have that's not necessarily mandatory is highlighted in another color so that they visually see, hey, this is a really good match for you based on what you say you need. So share with me what your thoughts are. That is a very powerful tool to help them also keep perspective on what they should land on based on what their needs are and what their wants are. Then, of course, it's showing time. So sometimes, I'll hear different agents say, they have them meet at the office and then they get in the car and they go together, especially if they don't know them. Or depending on the situation, they'll follow. Whatever the case may be, of course, wherever you're comfortable is what you should do. But it's a good opportunity if you do have them come into the office a second time to review their needs with them to make sure that nothing changed since the first time y'all talked. Then you can explain those showing packages that you've prepared and show them, these are really great contenders based on what you say you need and what you want. Answer any questions they have and then go and show. Hopefully of one of the properties that you guys show, they'll finalize an offer. Which then brings us into writing and negotiating, which we're already through half of our 47 vital activities. And sometimes a lot of this happens simultaneously. But it's, again, a really good focus tool to see, am I doing this with my buyers? Am I doing this plus some, or am I not doing some of these things and I'm doing other things instead? So writing and negotiating, it's sending the offer to the listing agent, of course, negotiating that offer to acceptance, opening title, delivering earnest money, getting the signed contract back at the office or filed where it needs to go, scheduling home inspections and checking the home's insurability, communicating with the buyer. That's a big one. And then also with the listing agent, reviewing the inspection report with the buyer, because that's Greek. Who really knows what that says? What's important? What's not that big of a deal, right? Send the amended contract to the listing agent and then help negotiate those repairs that are necessary or are very, very important to the buyer. Then once all of that's said and done, it's time to prepare for closing. So scheduling the closing, communicating with the buyer and the lender, reviewing the title policy, the HUD statement, then of course, attend the closing. It always it just blows my mind that some agents don't attend closing. And I'm thinking, in our case, thank God you were there, because oh my goodness, there was that little hiccup and then they thought we owed this and we didn't. And anyway, very, very good practice to always attend your closing. So your buyer's not like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Plus, I mean, you've created a relationship at this point. This is the this is the finish line.
This
So
is the exciting part. Yeah.
and then I would argue that this right here, these last 7 steps are as important as anything else, and it's what comes after closing. So it's emailing or mailing a customer survey. Hey, how did I do for you? Is there anything that I can improve? Were your expectations met? This serves as really, really great learning tools on how to improve in your business, but also solid commentary and feedback that you can use in your marketing materials. Then you want to go ahead and initiate or kick off that just sold campaign. The old school way would mean that you would send out postcards. I say old school because it is so incredibly effective. Today, people love to see good news, and that's good news. The other way to do it is to knock on the doors of 50 neighbors. This can also be accomplished online with a targeted ad. Does the same thing. The point is to spread the word that this property was just sold, because what you're saying is, I get results that I seek. And then a week after closing, make a follow-up call to your buyer. Check in on them. How are they doing? Have they gotten settled? Have they moved yet? And then, of course, a month after closing, do it again. And just check in on them. Anything that you need. It just really solidifies that relationship that you've built. So as a summary, then, we talk about our potential, okay? And our potential, not compared to others, but our potential compared to what we're truly capable of doing. That then moves into that maximum output, making sure that what we like the hours that we invest, that we choose to invest in our career, we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck, so to speak. Water or gold, right? Being effective and efficient, making sure that not only are we doing what we set out to do, but are we doing it efficiently and in a way that's systematic, that we're not having to be so wrapped up mentally that we can just kind of set it and forget it, set it and forget it. All of that hinges on being intentional and proactive with our time. Intentional, setting out our day, planning our day. This is what I'm going to accomplish. And then proactive is seeing it through, causing the results that you seek, which then leads us to that activities management system, or the vital activities checklist, which is those 47 items that we just went through. So that, in a nutshell, is how to remain totally vital when working a buyer, from generating a lead all the way to calling them 30 days after they close. Use that as a focus tool and compare that against what you're doing with your buyers. If you're doing all 47 of those things every time, and you're also doing an additional 47 things, maybe some of that can be delegated out. Likewise, if you're not doing those 47 things, why not? Let's try to plug some of that in. So truly use it as a focus tool, and evaluate yourself on how your efforts are, what results are coming from your efforts. Okay, so what resonated with you today?
I would say, honestly, just really looking at my daily calendar and how I'm effectively using my time. It's so funny that this was the class for today, because that is what I woke up with, weighted on my mind today, was that I feel like I have all these things to do, especially right now with having multiple things under contract, and feeling like I'm spending so much time doing that part, but not truly effectively doing lead generation, truly effectively. Yesterday I posted what I had pending, and I was trying, in a way to somewhat lead generate by doing
Sure.
that. But I do feel like I'm missing the opportunities to lead generate during my day, because I am so busy chasing the golden, the shiny keys, basically.
Yeah.
Responding to this email. Oh, hang on, so-and-so's texted me about this. And instead of staying focused on, I had such big plans today to really achieve a lot of my work in Back Agent that has failed. Just trying to keep up with my contracts as they're going. And I'm realizing, hey, I have so keep getting off track by this, and this. And I realize that certain times you do have to take that call or
You
whatever,
do.
but it's true that I think that if you hone in, you don't get distracted by the shiny keys so much too.
Yeah. So I want to say that you told me when you first started out, you did time block. Is that
I
right?
did.
And then do you feel like it really worked for you when you did it?
I think if I truly stayed honed in on it, yes.
Okay.
I think that, and truthfully, I've overcommitted myself in certain areas of my life. And so I think that that's also started kind of playing a factor into my day. But and I think honestly, I get distracted very easily at the office. And I know that sounds crazy. You would think it'd be the opposite, that I would see all these things at home that need to be done, and that does somewhat play a factor. But I find myself working more and more and more hours at home and longer periods of time at home, which is not really good for family life, because I am not able to achieve what I need to achieve at the office. And I think it's just distraction, whether
Sure.
it be we have a very social office. um, but Shannon and I have really tried to work on being accountable with each other too. And some of that has also been just, she'll bring me along on something that she has for listing and wants my input and stuff. But it's also kind of good seeing it from a different agent's perspective. So I do feel
Sure.
like that's a little growth there too for me. Just even though we're a little, we're on the same path in terms of how length of time we've been in this, but just seeing somebody else's perspective and how they manage it and how they would react to something also has, I feel like, helping me daily.
Absolutely.
So we do try to do some of that during the week too, and work with each other to try to help each other out in that regard. So it
Awesome.
is true. I have not maintained my focus, I think, especially in the lead generation area that I need.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about, I try not to be a procrastinator, but, the, but I think that that's my biggest is I like the example that of the calendar entry. And I think that that's what I want to do this evening is kind of look at my calendar for the next couple of weeks and just really truly block some time to focus on certain things and see where it takes me.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see where it takes you to. And you're making me think about something too whenever you were saying, procrastinating and things like that, because um in Charlie's Mojo that he sent out this morning, did you click on the link
I
for the
did.
article? And he was talking about habits and how habits should be easy. They shouldn't be something that's so big that we just totally get overwhelmed. And it's something that we don't really think of. So if you say, look, I want to lead generate every single day, maybe that's just reaching out to people who know you and love you and just checking in on
Mhm.
them and getting back to the basics of relationships.
Right.
Or, instead of, and I talked to Katie Mays about this, if you're somebody who gets coffee every day or you get out with your kids to bring them to school, get out, and that forces you to talk to someone. And then
Mm.
no matter what, it just seems like the conversation always steers to, so how's business? Or what are you doing now? And it's not really selling, it's just having a conversation.
Being
And making
intentional.
it known, right. And making it known what you're doing and who you are. So, so cute because in Mastermind, although, so while you were in the hospital with her,
Hated to miss it.
so we were talking about that, and we talked about it. It truly is about the relationship, and Hester said that at her very first mastermind, and it has never left me. And she said, it never mattered to her if the market was like this or like that or like this. She said the only thing that she's ever focused on in all the years that she's done real estate is the person across the table from her. And that was just so powerful because people, I feel like, get so caught up in the next shiny thing, or throwing money at this lead source that promises all of this, and then it's just a money pit with no
Mhm.
real result, when really it's as simple as picking up the phone and calling someone that you haven't been able to connect with in a while.
Mhm.
And Katie Mays is like, I feel so guilty, and I love her, but she was like, she had like an epiphany in the mastermind, and she said, she goes, I was throwing money at this and throwing money at that and putting money here and there, trying to generate leads for myself. And she said, I've gotten more just from calling my friends and seeing my friends. And she's like, I felt guilty because, like, it should be harder than this. And this is not work to go and have a drink with my friends. And she said, but that has been the biggest turning point for her, that she can see real traction from her efforts.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just so funny because she was just like, it should be harder than this. And she's like, it's just not, so, and she's right.
It's truly, that's honestly 100% of where all of my businesses come from, is just staying true to my friendships and my relationships and people. And I think that for me was why I've never been a person that felt like I could sell myself. I mean, I'm not, it was funny because Carla Lozano told me the other day that she did not see me as the type of person that wasn't confident in my abilities. And I'm like, I'm honestly quite the opposite. I said, if I put on that persona, then woohoo for me, because I'm just not comfortable in my own skin, much less trying to sell myself to someone else. But what I do know about myself is that I'm genuine, and I do care about you, and I do truly care about what's going on in your life, and how can I make it easier, and is there something I can do to help alleviate something somewhere or whatever. And I mean that. And so I feel like that's kind of how I've tried to gear my business and my lead source, Jen, per se, is that just to stay relevant with people, and know that this isn't, hey, I just want your business. It's, hey, I really do care about you. And if that doesn't, equate to scrubbing a toilet or whatever it's been this last year lately, but if it meant that my seller could, breathe because I did that, then that's kind of what I have kind of based that on, is that I'm willing to do what it takes, but at the same time, I value you and where you're at in your life, and can I be effective for you, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that makes all the difference in the world. Because LaJonna, you met LaJonna.
Mm-hmm.
She was saying the same thing. And she was just like, I don't ever want to be somebody who's like the salesperson or, anything like that. She's like, I'm not comfortable with it. I don't like it. I don't want to be like that. And so she's kind of switched her focus as well. And she said, she called up, so her kids are in their 20s. And there was a woman that she used to be really close with when their kids were small. And they've recently lost touch because their kids are older. And she said, it'd been a while since she had an actual conversation with this person. And so she was like, what the heck? She just pulled out her phone, sent that lady a text. And it was just like, look, she just said, hey, there have been countless times where you've come across my mind, or, something made me think about you. And she said, I miss you. I hope you're doing well. I'd love to get together, maybe go get a drink or something. She said, so she sent it, and she was just kind of like, oh my God. And she sent it, and then a day goes by, nothing. And she thought, oh my God, did I send it to the wrong number? Did she get a new number? What's going on? And then finally, the following day, the lady was like, I cannot tell you how good it is to hear from you. Oh my God, please let us go get a drink. And LaJonna said it just like that. It just totally changed everything for her. And she said she no longer felt like she was going to be pushy or be a salesperson. It was truly about just showing somebody that she cared and that she wanted to be genuinely interested in what they were doing in their life. And anyway, it's been really, really cool to kind of watch people connect the dots back to the basics of this is a people business.
Yeah.
So
computers aren't going to change it. I got reached out to, I was telling Charlie not too long ago, Mellow Homes. It's part of Loan Depot's. It's a referral program basically. And I had them send me this stuff just out of curiosity. But when it was all said and done, I didn't even read it, because what they wanted for a referral percentage and everything else, I was like, you know what, Crystal, you so far have managed to do this on your own, just being you. And so it's just kind of made me think, you know what, you are good enough as long as you invest your time wisely and continue to do those things that you're always have been known to do, per se. It's funny because people in the legal field kept telling me, you're going to be wildly successful at this. And I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. And I don't know why you would say that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm highly flattered, but I just don't get, this is a huge jump, a total difference. They all kept going back to that, how I managed my clients as a paralegal, and that I had most of the client contact. And so all of those clients, were taken care of by me daily. And so, and I said, well, you're right. I guess it is in a way very similar. It's that, it's how do you take care of people every single day? Are you managing expectations, but also are you are you communicating? I mean, it just, it blows me
Truly
away
communicating.
that really and truthfully, that's what it is. So I'm grateful nonetheless for it. But I think that this also helps me stay on track to not go down all the rabbit trails, because I'm here lately notorious for it. But I feel like this will kind of help me kind of say, yes, it's okay to block this in and be accountable to yourself
Absolutely. Yeah.
for these things, for sure.
Well, and I have exciting news too, because we talked about, like you had mentioned, that you and Shannon kind of hold each other accountable, and holding yourself accountable, and so on. Um, LaJonna and Katie, they came in almost at the exact same time. They're on two totally different teams. So what I did, because I'm held accountable every week by David Scott, who created all of this amazingness. And he's like, "Have you done accountability yet?" And I'm like, "No." And truth be told, I was very, very nervous about it, because who am I to hold, And anyway, I said, "Okay, fine, I'm going to do it." And so I put Katie and LaJonna in what I would call like a guinea pig group. So I'm starting very small with two. And we have weekly accountability on Wednesday afternoon, where they come in at 4, and we just talk and we say, "Okay, how was last week? How do you feel about it? What did you learn? Did you do what you set out to do? If not, what happened?" And then they walk away with action items for the next week, to incorporate into their business, and then it just repeats, and it goes on for 11 weeks. Each accountability group meets every week for 11 weeks, and at the end of it, they should feel, or at least be, on the right track to continue on without accountability if they so chose it. I tell you what, it has been huge for me. Just hearing what they're doing, hearing like Katie come in full circle with understanding where the value is, because she was one that was just totally overwhelmed and throwing money at different things. And so to me, like, that's a huge victory for her.
Right.
To say all of that, at the end of 11 weeks, I'm going to do an open enrollment. So whoever wants to be in an accountability group, there will be an accountability group, to where either you, like LaJonna was in North Carolina, and she called my phone, and we did it that way. Because there are expectations, like you have to be there, because it's true accountability. But I think it has been very helpful. And so at the very first of the year, that open enrollment's going to open up for those and there's going to be multiple, because we're just really big. But anyway, so that's coming, and that'll be really good. So I would encourage you, if that's something that you'd be interested in, and Shannon as well, to hop on and get into these accountability groups, because I do think they make a huge difference.
Well, and I think she just recently took her GRI class, and she was saying just how helpful so much of that information was. And I told her that, I said, that's the same thing with the business development side. There's so many parts of this that you think you know, and you really don't know, or it's not so much you don't know, but there's so many other ways that you could spin it or truly see it in a different light, that I feel like is super helpful. That's one of the things I have penciled in all week as development. I feel like I have 2 weeks of football season left. So these afternoon stuff, yes, right. So these afternoons, I can be a little more, hands-on with my business. I feel like I have to get home by a certain time for the bus, and I have to get home for, so anyway, I told Josh and I said, I hope that y'all aren't going to be distracting to me, but I want to jump on. This is what I plan to do. My phone has blown up, and I have not even looked at the first text message. So I'm trying to, like you said, stay intentional and truly commit to that. It's a reprogramming, essentially.
It truly is. And our personality, it's like, okay, something goes off, we want to get it done, move on, get it done, move on. But really, that can almost be counterproductive, and it can work against you, because when you look up and it's 5 o'clock and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything that I set out to do. So, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm in it. I feel it. But it does. It truly is changing and training your mind to attack things a different way. But hopefully it'll keep your sanity here and not,
It's true though. Yesterday I was feeling really overwhelmed. So like I feel like I have all this stuff going on right now, and the holidays are approaching, and I've got all these things under contract, which are great. And then we're looking at trying to do a home edition. So I'm just like, wah. but I was feeling really overwhelmed nonetheless. And I think that you're right, that it's honing in and focusing back on, okay, am I utilizing my time effectively, or is it I'm too busy chasing shiny keys to be able to really focus on what I should be doing to be productive with my time.
Exactly.
So I do need to try to really free up my evening time, where I'm only handling calls as needed or whatever else, and really hone my focus into during the day. That's my goal. So,
well, and I think that the better you hone it during the day, the less likely it is to invade at night.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you're right there. You're on it.
So, well, thank you, my love. It was a good class.
Of course, my pleasure. I'll email this to you. That way you have the checklist.
Please do. In the conversation, the blueprint.
Your role, my role.
Yes.
You got it. I'll send it your way.
Thanks.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.